If I'm talking about my definition of leading with love, I would say that it definitely comes from leading with intention and leading without ego. When you lead with intention and you know exactly what you want to accomplish in your relationships and even within yourself, but making sure that you check your ego at the door beforehand, I think that will always put you in the right place. It's going to take a lot of patience for sure. If you don't have patience, then that's something that you need to work on. That's when the patience tolerance begins to work. It's like, you know what, I am up to here. Let me find the love in this. And that's when I think the hard part comes in. That's when the real work is there.
Okay. Tone, you buying it?
From Kyle? I'll buy those words. If that's what you're asking, do I believe in that sentiment? Yes. The vessel that is delivering this is where I start to have some issues. Because I just know this brother too much. I'm sorry.
What's good, everybody? What's good?
Hating asses. Y'all are.
With your hating ass.
With your hating ass. That's exactly what we're going to
Do that two-step, that tango, whatever it is you need to do.
Just so you know, this is the intro to the next episode.
Matt,
we gonna hear this, then the music drops.
With your hating asses. My name is a trainer called Tony, and I'm sitting here with some hating ass brothers filled with hate. Disgust, even. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. I would call you gentlemen, but that is a disservice to that name. What the hell is your name?
Hating ass Corey.
I am K.R. Jones, and I am leading with love.
You are a liar.
Yeah, this is just false advertising.
And a scoundrel.
Yeah. False advertising is what's coming on to these airwaves. And let me do my due diligence and go back and let everybody know what's good.
Everybody.
What's good? I am a trainer called Tony, and this is the Off the Train podcast, where we're giving you the inside look into all things wellness culture. That is correct. And we are getting off to a little bit of a rocky start because I was in here with these hating ass haters. So guys, you gotta let everybody know what the hell your hating asses was doing throughout the course of the week. Go ahead and let me know. Brother Jones, I'm looking at you first. Go.
Well, I was watching Dave Chappelle on Netflix, binging, if you will, and you know they had the Haterade Awards. Hate. So I was influenced only by, you know, what I was watching. So that's how I kind of led with hate this morning, and I'm gonna take that back. But on the real, I think going back and looking at Dave Chappelle on Netflix and realizing that I've been making the same joke references for 17 years, and they're still as funny as they were 17 years ago.
You really feel that way?
It's pretty historic.
You got to confirm that with the outside.
Yeah, it's still
outside
funny.
funny got to match your inside funny. But I understand where you're going with that, my man. He's keeping it together, getting his references going down. Corey, what's been going on with you this week, sir?
I went back to reading Sun Tzu. I try to read that every couple of years, The Art of War.
There we go.
I tend to read multiple books at the same time. So I'm in on Sun Tzu. I'm also reading another kind of samurai-related book. And then I'm in a deep search for Fidel Castro's autobiography. It was heavily recommended to me. It's a really difficult book to find, but I'm going to dig that thing out.
There we go. Okay, he's finding peace of mind while he's reclining and getting a little bit of reading going on. Corey, I appreciate everything that you're putting down in this week. And I got to let everybody know that I was up to some serious home improvements this week, fellas. So I don't know if everybody else out there has been experiencing some of the delays that this quarantine has brought about. But I'm moving to my new place, I say in about August, and I'm still waiting for stuff. I actually got a message from my couch this week, which was kind of like a ransom note, but it was coming from something that I paid for months ago. It's like, yo, look at what we doing over here. We putting a new upholstery on this
Like,
shit.
you got the wild smart couch that text you?
Nah, my couch ain't smart. It's dumb. Every part of this situation is dumb. I went to the store. I paid for it. Shit ain't come for 9 weeks just yet. So eventually I hope to sit on this couch, and I'd like to let everybody know how that actually goes through. But as the home improvements kept going, I'm getting my wallpaper in. I'm starting to get my end tables coming all together. So I'm making the whole home situation be real comfortable because it seems like we might be spending a little bit more time at home.
You could just build it yourself.
Nah, that's not for me. That's not really the thing that I do.
Tone the two-man.
Nah, man. I delegate, automate, integrate. That's how I do it in that order. If you didn't catch that, make sure I'll send you the invoice when we run it back.
I just hate.
We gonna keep it moving. I'm trying to put them onto my game, Corey, and if I'm putting them onto my game, we gotta put everybody else onto the games that's going on outside there. God damn it. Let's get into the segment. What is coming in by way of questions in the listener land? Let's put them on some game this week.
We went through putting you on game, asking those questions and getting that feedback from folks, and we got a really interesting one, and it's how do you evaluate your personal worth? How do you decide your own worth within this thing? And what I really like about the question is there wasn't a stipulation, so we get to decide how you want to evaluate your own worth as well, and in what context that means. So it's a nice wide open question we really get to dig into. So I've been told that your worth is what people will invest in you, like your art. But I like to personally believe that your worth is whatever you're willing to invest in yourself, because you get to define your worth, so you get to decide how valuable you are.
I would agree with that completely. I want to reference back or harken back to when Matt James came to him, and what was that? The Bachelor he is. We're not gonna talk about that.
We are gonna talk about that. Fuck all that shit. I'm taking credit this year again.
That's the second one.
That's the Bachelorette and the Bachelor on the same goddamn show. If nobody else is gonna put credit on that, I will.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Okay, and I'll wait for anybody else to say something else. Go ahead, Jones. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you on that. Sorry, I got a little hostile.
Thank you for that intro. Back to your value conversation. You are the product of other people investing in you, right? So I think of my value coming from all the lessons that were instilled in me as a child, from my grandmother, from my parents, from my peers, from my cousins. And then, of course, over time, taking everything together and molding it into the value that I define for myself. But your true value comes from the lessons that were bestowed upon you, if you will.
All right.
I would definitely agree and echo many of the sentiments that my brothers have shown, but I would also like to elevate that by means of relativity, because value has a relative component to it. And I mean that by way of, how do you know what to assess if you're talking about real dollar amounts, what you should be getting, if you don't have any context by which to make that comparison? So value becomes something that, yes, it should be an intrinsically motivating factor. It should be something that you have conversations with about yourself, and nobody should be able to distill or take away from the internal value system that you do have. But if you're talking about net worth, you need to have an approximation to base that off of. If you don't, you'll be negotiating from a place of disservice. So just wanted to provide that context for it, because you do need to have appropriate relation between where you are and what you are interpreting as value and what you can get back from that standpoint. I believe everything that my brothers just said about you setting that internally for yourself, but the market is the market is the market. And you got to be able to understand where that goes.
So basically what we're saying is your value is related to how you feel and how everybody else feels about you. So E equals your MC.
Word. So get your information from sources that have been validated. Please keep that in mind. Much like when there's things that are happening inside of this wild world of wellness, we have to make sure that we come down and get good information, Brother Corey.
The WQ.
We got to make sure that we check our sources for both the good, the bad, and then third of all, the ugly. And that's right. We're going to start to switch this thing over on into Ripped from the Headlines this week. And man, fellas, do you have your Darion on and ready for this first story?
I gotta be honest, man.
I don't think you're ready for this jelly.
What I'm not about to do is talk to you about my Darion.
Why
my
you got your Darion?
My business. I get to appropriate the value of my Darion, and I ain't showing it for less than $22.50.
Listen, man, if we're gonna celebrate the wins, we gotta celebrate the losses too. And there's some losses in this catalog, is all I'm trying to say. But this week, I want to celebrate the Hive for the righteousness that happened, because Queen Bee herself struck a multi-year contract partnership with none other than category killer Peloton. I've been saying music and fitness is coming together all along. It's finally starting to make sense to the common folk out here. I want to get into the storyline, but fellas, I just want to get a reaction to the top line on this sentence. How did y'all feel about this article coming from CNBC talking about how the Beehive was able to move market shares for Peloton, which was already at the top of our category?
So I never read the ad because the picture captured me.
Golden Globes.
The picture captured me. All I know is they better get a custom seat for B because she got a future behind her.
Exactly right.
All I'm saying is I know where the twins are. They are right behind her. All respect due to the Carters, but damn.
There's a different type of cycling that you have to do on this side. I don't know.
Are you ready for that jelly is all I'm saying.
This is what we need to check on.
Does your Peloton have a beach cruiser seat?
This is exactly why this story is in the good.
I got nothing on that. I'm gonna let y'all have this moment.
All I know is when I saw the ad, I said, uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how you had to come in there, man.
You were crazy in love is what you're
He
saying?
was crazy not to be in love with Kyle because Peloton said that Beyonce will work with the company on various forms of classes. So Beyonce is actually going to be curating some classes out here. And this multi-year deal where you're definitely going to get some music coming across, definitely going to get her curation. I would hope that it's dance-based classes because anything else would start to look a little shaky for me.
So.
But
Speaking of shaky.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know where you're about to go. You about to step in a different direction?
all I know is I'm gonna get myself a lot of gel because I'm about to spin up my locks into a beehive. I am
ready
a
to
fan.
work. I'm
I am
on
a
board
fan.
for this, especially because they have 3.6 million dedicated members that were enthusiastically in support of what she was saying. And that's right. She actually was able to move market share for a company that was already killing this market in a year that they were the single defined winner inside of all fitness culture. She was able to bump that thing up again. And I would say whoever's making these power moves is definitely in the good category for me. I love to see our culture coming together with the thing that we love and really getting the opportunity to capitalize on this. And I keep saying this, I'm going to say it again, the content lane on these distribution platforms, which Peloton is one, there's a lot of other distribution platforms out here that are making these things where fitness is no longer about what it is we're doing. It's also about why the fuck we're doing it. Guys, are you paying attention to what's happening? Because I feel like I knew this was happening for a long time, but I just like to keep coming back into these, and this is why this is going in the good this week.
That's very good. That's great.
Yeah. So it's essential for music to uplift and inspire as Beyonce is making her move inside of our category, and I'm sure she's going to not just be here for a good time, but a long time, and she is going to keep everything moving forward. And that's why this is going to lead into the good. Now, coming out of the good, we're talking about tech again. If we're leading inside of tech, the intersection of health and the intersection of wellness, it's not always things that are going to be in that good side, fellas. I got to be honest with you. Sometimes I got to ask some questions. So this one is in the questionable category for me, and this is an article coming from CNBC.com talking about Apple and Google competing for health, and the CEO of Prudential Health Insurance Company is concerned about the market share that Apple and Google is now starting to take over in the healthcare sector. Now, we've talked about this many times inside of this podcast, mainly because, I'm kind of a nerd about this shit and I keep bringing it up. But people seem not to understand that these things are interconnected. So as Apple and Google reach billions of people, billions with a B, around the world with iOS and Android, their operating system being able to understand exactly what you're doing at every single point in time, and now being deeper interconnected with what health research is doing, it should be something that is of concern when we're talking about where this information lives. When the CEO of a company that I am sure has less than, let's say, desirable practices by means of what consumer insights, protection, and things of that nature is saying, we're fucking up, but these guys are going in a different direction, and they got a lot more to fuck up with. How are we starting to feel about hearing some of what Apple and Google moving actual healthcare providers out of their system while they're starting to vie for this new territory?
This is real plain. This is gangsters don't like other gangsters in their territory.
At all.
That's all it is. That's where the beef comes. I mean, and when it ultimately comes down to it, we're the ones who lose. But watching two gangsters battle it out, three gangsters battle it out, who's coming in next? Coca-Cola going to slide in there and figure something out too.
Yeah, so it's not just the amount of information that they connect. Prudential is concerned because they actually might start providing healthcare as well. So in a realistic way, we're talking about one company being responsible for how many different aspects of your life, from what you search also impacting what you take in, what you consume, to also impacting where you physically are, and nobody having a whole lot of oversight on all of this. I can tell you why I see red flags in every part of this story, but apparently people seem to be okay with this innovation if it makes it a little bit easier for you to find healthcare.
This is the prequel to every Armageddon movie that ever happened.
I think about iRobot. I think about Will Smith and Enemy of the State and all those things coming in. So I am switching from apples to bananas, and I will no longer Google. I will pick up dictionary.
Well, it's funny.
They still make dictionaries?
They do.
I'm gonna find one and get me a whole wall full of an encyclopedia. So I don't have to look no more.
He's like, yo, I'm stopping at 1998. That's exactly no information past 1998 means sense to
You
me.
gonna pull out a Britannica?
Yeah, exactly. Going all the way back. And it's crazy because a lot of people assume on the surface that Apple and Google are competitors in this atmosphere. And this is where you will be first deceived, ladies and gentlemen. Because when it comes to outperforming institutions that have been antiquated from a long time ago, these companies that can compete with each other would elect to not compete with each other and rather just circumvent all the bullshit that everybody else has been doing. So this is landing in the bad for me because insurance companies were fucking you over from the beginning. Now they're upset that somebody is probably going to be able to do this at a more efficient practice because all of tech looks at efficiency first before they look at a lot of the other things that are underneath that line, which often imply some form of human cost. I cannot condone human costs being the thing that we make our lives more efficient byproduct by. I can't get convenience by means of making humans cost.
Even though that's how most of the world was built.
I cannot stand for it. This is why I'm torn in the tech world that I live in. And this is why I feel like this has to land us in the bad this week, fellas. What's going on with you, Kyle?
Man, that sounds ugly. So I'm curious to hear what the
How ugly is ugly?
what the ugly has to be.
Well, the ugly gets a little darker because we are talking about these companies that are still alleged to be good companies by means of how they perform and where they go. And some of the lines that we did mention already are performing well in a year that is pretty much a down year for most of the economy. So I'm looking at luxury wellness brands that are thriving, but people are getting sicker. And this article comes to us from GearPatrol.com, and it talks a little bit more about the global wellness industry exceeding $4 trillion this year. But
With a T.
With a T this time. $4 trillion. We ain't talking about monopoly money. We're talking about real dollars and cents out here. But the cost of actual health has gone through the roof, and people are sicker than when this industry has been propagated to its highest level. So just pause for a second and really pay attention. The ideas around well-being have never been more pronounced than this year. Kind of makes sense because everybody had to face the fact that, shit, you might die. Not might, you definitely are going to die. It's a matter of when you going to die is the question that we're trying to really investigate. Now, as everybody's really evaluating their longevity in some way, shape, or form and how to sustain that, we're seeing people making investments in things that would seem to elicit more life. But people, at the end of the day, are getting sicker. We've been in this industry for the longest time. I would tell everybody out there who is the novice listener that we sell aspiration before we sell health almost every single time. Almost every single time. And now we're starting to see the facts play out that this selling of aspiration is not making people healthier, and we're actually being left with a disembodied and sickened electorate out here. Fellas, on the surface level of this conversation, making more money inside of our industry, but people being sicker, what are some of your initial reactions to that as a thought?
I mean, it was to be expected. As soon as you stop listening to experts and qualified folk and start listening to advertisements and influencers, you're gonna go the wrong way.
I echo that sentiment a lot too. I feel like the disparity between what is actually good and what looks good has just continued to grow and expand even more. So taking that advice from your influencer, or, you know, just being filled with so many things that aren't necessarily true, but that profit being over top of people that's always going to land you in an ugly place, if you will, Tony.
Uglier than your grandma's house coat.
I mean, we don't need that. That thing be open sometimes in places that you don't need it to be open. And it leads you down a line that will really have you questioning some things, man. You know, like, much like the CDC would come out and tell you that in a year where we're talking about a lot of different deaths happening, right? And we're talking about mostly by means of what COVID is doing. That's the leading existential threat. Heart disease in the U.S. is still killing a lot more people than what we should be accepting at this point for an industry that is predicated on health.
You're talking about your hort.
Your hort, the health and the sickness that's around there is incendiary. So I need to do everything that I can to raise the level of alertness, and saying that quarantine 15 that we put on probably is putting you in a real sense of danger, not just for what COVID is about, but for all the things that were already underlying that. Combine that with stress and combine that with less opportunities to actually move when we're telling you to stay still. This becomes an ugly problem because it has a perpetual nature to it. So folks, I would like to enlist everybody into investing in that thing that we do, that we call the art of movement, in some way, shape, or form, because anything that we can do to regain our sovereignty and to regain our movement going forward is going to be the types of things that takes us from this ugly situation, and it clears up our life a little bit more, and hopefully we be able to move forward throughout that life. That's right, goddammit. We're going to go from the ugly, we're going to clear up to brighter and sunnier days, and we're going to go ahead and move right on into this moment of clarity. Brother Corey, I'm going to look over at you, my friend. What is going on this week in the moment of clarity?
Well, actually, I want to talk about what leading with love really is, because my brother, who I love so much, my brother Kyle, got called out on the fact that he doesn't always lead with love, even though sometimes he means to. Or perhaps we define leading with love differently than he does. So I want to unpack how all of us define leading with love. So maybe we can find out that Kyle wasn't actually lying. He was just differently thinking. First off, in my mind, in order to really lead with love, and more importantly, to respond with love, you have to make it a reflex. You have to treat it like an exercise, continuously focus on it, keep doing it over and over until it becomes a habit, and then it becomes a reflex. So it becomes your immediate conditioned response. So love needs to be like your counterpunch. It's not an easy thing, especially for people like us, especially for those of us who are trained not to show weakness. Because leading with love requires humility, it requires intention, and it requires patience. You have to love yourself enough to protect your own energy. You have to love those in your circle enough to condition yourself to respond to adversity with love so that you can create space for them. Because taking on other people's energy sometimes can reduce that ability. And not to respond to anger with anger, and to respond to anger with love. Because anger is amongst us. Anger is a beast right now. And this is going to be one of the hardest things for you, or for some people, because it certainly was for me. It was incredibly hard for me at one point in my life, is to respond to love with love. Because sometimes that in itself becomes uncomfortable. When it's easy sometimes to try to quote unquote pivot and feel that energy and turn it into something else. But it's really difficult to face the fact that somebody is showing you some love and you have to respond back to it. That's not always the immediate reaction all the time. So leading with love can be a very difficult thing. And to clarify, leading with love doesn't mean you have to be a pacifist. Sometimes you got to love yourself enough to protect yourself from other people. And that means that you can bring all the smoke and I can lead with love, or I can use that love to beat every gram of shit out of you. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it depends on where that love comes from and what you're using it for, in my mind. Tone, I want Brother Jones to give us his information on what leading with love feels like.
It don't mean shit. I keep telling you.
See, y'all aren't leading with love, because that's not coming from a place of love.
I love you enough to make you see the truth.
Pretty much. If I'm talking about my definition of leading with love, I would say that it definitely comes from leading with intention and leading without ego. When you lead with intention and you know exactly what you want to accomplish in your relationships, in your business ships, and even within yourself, but making sure that you check your ego at the door beforehand, I think that will always put you in the right place It's going to take a lot of patience for sure. If you don't have patience, then that's something that you need to work on. It's one of those things that it only works when your patience runs out. That's when the patience tolerance begins to work. It's like, you know what, I am up to here. Let me find the love in this. And that's when I think the hard part comes in. That's when the real work is there.
Okay. Tone, you buying that?
From Kyle? I buy those words. If that's what you're asking, do I believe in that sentiment? Yes. The vessel that is delivering this is where I start to have some issues. Because I just know this brother too much. I'm sorry. I'm not accepting of any of this information.
You lead with love, but you carry hate.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, I'm gonna just tell you how I received this brother, how he receives me.
I carry no hate in my body, people. You know, if you know me, you know that I lead with love at all times. Now, I may hit you with a hard truth.
I'm gonna go ahead and
From
just
the heart.
point to the top of the episode. That's all I'm gonna show you. I don't have to go too far.
Let the record reflect. That was your trainer, Corey. That was not me.
Okay. All right. I hear what you're saying. I don't agree with none of it. But
Sounds like
I
deflection.
Yeah. I received the fact that you have chosen to say those words, and I accept that.
Tone, you got any love to lead us with?
I'm gonna start off with good morning or evening, friends. I'm gonna start right in.
Okay, Stevie.
Exactly, because love is exactly what Stevie would tell you that you need. And I'm gonna try to love this brother Kyle.
Stevie saw that one coming.
Exactly, he did see that coming. See, that does not sound like love. This is what I'm trying to tell you. This brother don't have it.
So the conclusion we've come to is ego minus Stevie equals leading with love.
Yeah, man, you know, he's trying to understand. You know, I'm going to see how you going to make a blind man joke and say that you leading with love. I'm trying to understand it. I really be lost half the time. But I'm going to give this brother the benefit of the doubt, because love, sweet love, is what we need to move, indeed, forward past this segment and into another one. And we going to make this goddamn transition work somehow, some way, goddamn it, because this got to be the fastest hour to go forward. So we going to lift ourselves up from this bottom position that I'm currently found in. And hopefully we can raise this goddamn bar into a different direction. Brother Love.
Oh, no.
That is not a moniker of mine that I will go by.
It is now. The love leader.
Yeah, you know, leader of the new love. That's what
not
he's
the
out
love
here.
leader. I am indeed the good brother.
Good brother Jones. Let him know what's going on.
What's going on, people? We're going to raise the bar this week with love. We're going to lead with it. And we're going to talk about, man, have you gents seen that Supreme was sold for $2.1 billion with a B?
With a B.
With a B. $2.1 billion. Are you gents up on that?
Supreme has been wildly expensive the whole time, and it still is.
It seems like the exact type of hype that they have been pulling from day one.
Yeah, very
So
consistent.
I'm not
very
surprised.
consistent.
Now,
when you can sell a brick for $300,
Yep, your company's probably worth $2 billion.
Now, see, they were sold to the company VF, and VF also owns North Face, Lee Jeans, Vans, Timberland, JanSport. There's a Nautica. There's a whole laundry list of companies that they own. The question is, will they continue to maintain that superiority, if you will? And
supremacy.
Ooh, that's a
ouch.
different conversation.
That's a different word. But will they continue to elevate the culture, if you will?
I don't think Supreme has elevated the culture for quite some time. And that's just a biased opinion because I was around probably when Supreme was really just getting started. I'm a byproduct, and anybody that wants to take me up on that, I'm happy to defend my stance, but I'm a byproduct of when this was actual, factual inside of New York City streets. I've seen what the store used to be able to walk into that. I've seen the adaptation of the hypebeast culture and seen what that turned into. So when you're talking about elevating culture, just that word in particular, I don't think that's what they were invested in for quite some time. So I don't think this will have any impact on culture, but the people who do have an affinity for it still be able to get their same kind of craziness off, probably a little bit faster.
I want to agree and disagree with you at the same time. I think it has an impact on culture, just not ours.
What culture would you be speaking to?
The culture of people who like to copy other people.
I don't think that is somebody that is speaking of culture. So culture would mean that it has a history, it has a legacy, it has something that is beyond the fact that just I saw some people doing that. I think that there's a lot of people who copy, right? So the innovation crux of that is the thing that I'm speaking to when I'm talking about in the culture side. Because Supreme, I know what Dave Quality Meats was. I know what Noam DeGuerre was. I know all of the stores that started at the same time on that little stretch of maybe like a mile and a half inside of New York City. There was a culture that came with that. I'm talking to the people who don't know that necessarily, but take the image and the look of that. That seems void of culture to me.
But that's just a different culture in my mind, because culture doesn't necessarily have to be like an aged thing. Predominantly, if you see who's wearing Supreme right now, that's not us. But that's still, to them, it's still fly. Like, it's still moving units. It's their thing. It's just not ours anymore. But there is a whole culture of people who copy an existing culture, create a new culture from it, and then that is that culture.
Yeah, I think the impasse that we're going to have is going to be the use of that word, because I would think that word is justified by everything that I said before that. So to use the word culture and not have context by where physically it had reference, the people that made that up, the sound that made that up, and the all the events that came about that, if it's void of that, it does not have culture in my definition.
No, I hear you. And this is why I say I agree with you, because I agree with the sentiment of what you're saying.
We
gonna agree to disagree.
We're gonna agree to disagree, and we're gonna move
on Supreme, and we gonna move on to real culture, goddammit.
There we go.
One of my favorite artists, Nina Chanel Abney, has her own gallery opening. Now, she is an abstract contemporary artist, a true artist, if you will, really representing for the black culture.
The culture?
The real culture that we're going to talk about. Not the coffee shop, not whatever y'all was talking about. We talking about the real culture in the streets. But on the real, she just dropped the gallery opening one on November 12th, and it's open until December 23rd. It's in Chelsea area, so please make sure that you check that out. She actually created a Converse shoe, customized it after Kamala Harris was in Complex and the sneaker shopping, and she said she loved Converses, so they made a Converse, all the above. It was actually really dope. They donated all the sneakers to the students at a college where there was actually a digestible sneaker culture course that kids were taking, so I thought that was really interesting. Now, to end this Raising the Bar segment. Now, we were talking about ads in a previous episode. I'm sure the people are going to get that at some point. But did you gentlemen get a chance to see the Beats by Dre ad that just dropped? If we really talking ads, I mean, we are talking about the You Love Me ad.
You love black culture, but do you love me?
I have not seen it.
I've seen it. I recall seeing it on shirts a long time before it came into the ad, and I agreed with it when I saw it the first time. And I agree with the idea and the concept of it carrying over. I love it. I'm happy to see it. It was dope.
So you have Toby Nwigwe, and he is out there narrating. So he's the voice, if you know him from rapping. He took a lot of praise lately for just starting the way that he is as an independent rapper and blowing up on Instagram and reaching the heights that he reached. But nonetheless, he's narrating this commercial in which Beats by Dre blatantly addresses how you love black people, but you don't want to celebrate them.
Love us like you love our culture.
You love our culture, but you don't love us individually. And I haven't seen a company of that magnitude take a stance like that. I mean, it's comparable to a Colin Kaepernick in a Nike commercial, but this was very blatant. This was hip hop in its true essence, and I really just appreciated this ad.
I do celebrate that. I also do point out the fact that is an Apple company. So just to make that all tie together, I am in high praise of things that move in a direction much like the conversation that we had that is in our celebration. I'm also hyper alert to the arena that is created in.
Yeah, so if we're in your commercial, are we in your boardroom?
That is a different
Love
conversation.
us like you love your commercial.
Speaking of love, we're going to talk about a while ago, if you will. I dated back
A harken
to
back?
a harken back, if you will. We're going to buttress into the Dear Jones segment that we once had, Tony. Tony, you remember a Dear Jones segment?
I do remember that.
When I was out here helping the young lovers find love because I was leading with love?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, that doesn't sound too believable from you. But you know what? It's all good because, you know, we're going to talk about this dating in a pandemic. We're going to talk about keeping your face in your waist strapped, gents.
Baking bread and getting head. All right, go ahead.
All the above. You know, you gotta keep the thermometer ready on deck. You know, keep your circle tight because you can't be... You can't be mixing and mingling with the folks out here, man. If you will, you might have to take a digital dash approach, you know.
The digital dash approach.
Keep your circle tight, fam.
Keep
Gotta keep your circle tight, man. You gotta know
no squares in your circle.
where everybody is at.
That's
You
why
gotta
your wind's low.
No, don't do that. Contact tracing is something that you really do have to pay attention to. So, Brother Jones, I do understand where you're.
You see where you picking up what I'm putting down?
I understand it.
Now, one might say you might be in the clubhouse.
Listen, I'm not gonna say that because they're not gonna get it. Yeah, I understand.
All right, but we're gonna talk about the digital dash being that Instagram DM.
Okay.
I feel like the pandemic has lowered the barrier, if you will. We all in the house. Now is the time to get your Steph Curry on.
Okay.
I'm talking now pulling up.
Shooting your shot.
Pulling from well past half court. You know?
Okay.
Three quarters court, if you will. It's the
You
time.
need somebody else's court.
It's the time when you shooting and you just throwing it all up there to Hail Mary, if you will. You know, do you have any advice you could give anyone to shooting that Hail Mary shot, Brother Tone?
All I'll say is this. If you lead with confidence and you are less than risk adverse, I don't know exactly what Kyle is talking about and where he's going when he's doing that, but I'm just talking about as a strategist in general. If you take more shots, you tend to be in a position where you're winning more often. So that's what I'm going to stick to.
It's a numbers game with
That's
you.
my story.
ABCs always be close.
Always be closing, especially in the house. That's all I'm talking about right now.
You know, I like to go against the grain. I'm going to argue against the analytics because the Rockets lost. So maybe shooting your shot all the time isn't the best bet. Sometimes you should aim. Sometimes you should take it to the paint.
Okay.
Get to know before you shoot your shot so you know what you're hitting.
So you're saying do a little recon, if you will.
Get a little
Get the
information.
Carfax.
Don't just broad shoot your shot because you know what? First off, we got filters out here, right? We got a lot of ways you can represent yourself differently than you actually are. So I would suggest you aim before you shoot and don't just shoot from somebody else's court because you might hit the wrong thing.
Understood. So from Brother Tone, we got it's a numbers game. From Brother Corey, we got you better aim before you shoot. For me, I guess I'm gonna lead the people with something like this, Tone. You know, I like to be in that creative realm. I like to make you think. I like to leave an impression, if you will. I might hit you with what's your least favorite food? Sushi? All right, we're going to go eat sushi on Wednesday because I'm going to make you love this by the time we're done. You know what I'm saying?
That's a different approach.
That's
and
different.
I appreciate
Shout out
Kyle.
to different.
You see that? You see what I did there?
Shout out to
flip
you.
the negative and turn it a positive.
And it's still all good. I see what you did.
Baby.
That's exactly right.
What do you hate? Let's go do that.
Let's do exactly what you dislike.
do exactly
She
what
is
you
going
dislike.
to definitely remember you, or your respective partner, no matter where they're coming from, is going to remember you
Try
for
it.
doing the thing that they actively told you not to do.
So if
Bingo.
you're playing a numbers game, that'll get all the no's out of the way early,
It'll
and then you
make
can
it
just
work.
hit them yeses in 2021.
Yeah, for sure. And I would also say exercise safety first, because you do have to keep the face and the waist on straps. So when you're meeting up in these public places, make sure that you are checking out. Hey, when you're asking some of the Carfax questions, hey, who you been around? Where you been hanging out? Like, when's the last time you actually got tested? Because these are real things and real situations that you should probably know before you get down and do the dilly or the dally
Them
to and fro.
same damn questions you should have been asking before the pandemic, because all them
It's
questions.
different though. You gotta lead with it a different way. I've been doing the research, Brother Corey. You know, I've been looking at it on some aforementioned apps, and you lead up with, so like, when's the last time you got a COVID test? Can we meet up the first time wearing masks? If that feels cool, where do you want to transition to? So there's real things that are happening, that people are still outside and they're still doing stuff. So I do want to make sure that we keep the information in elevating that bar actionable as possible. So please do use your common sense, goddammit.
Yeah, I'm in a no new friends mode right here. If I ain't met you, I can't get you.
That's all right, man. You ain't the only one outside, so we gonna make sure you do what you do, and we keep everybody else informed as we move this thing from one situation to the next, and hopefully everybody out there could get a goddamn chance to relax, because it ain't all about me, it ain't all about you. So how are we going to get to relax this week? We gotta let the good people know, and we gotta keep this thing moving. Fellas, answer with a sense of brevity. How are you relaxing this week? And that means you, goddammit, talk quick.
All right, goddammit. So I found that all of my relaxation reaches its culmination with my exhalation.
There we go.
So I bought a new pipe, and I'm smoking.
I appreciate that sentiment. I see you in your new pipe, and I raise you a nice Cuban cigar.
Oh.
You getting a Cuban on him.
The nice Cubano.
Go ahead, Tone, hit him with some Spanish.
I think that's
Yo soy Panama.
That still might be illegal, so you might not want to let people know that you was
Nah, it was from Florida. I don't know what you're talking about.
It was rolled by a Cuban.
Yeah, it was rolled by a Cuban, but in Florida. You know
Yeah,
what
there
I'm
we
saying?
go. That
There
makes
we
more
go.
sense. That
There
makes
you
more
go.
sense. Good cleanup. Good cleanup.
Yeah.
Of course, you got to keep it on the up and up, if you will. But
Yeah.
sharing a good cigar with the close friends and family in that small circle that we spoke of
Yeah.
was a solid time for me to relax responsibly.
So you kept your circle tight.
Keep
You
the
kept
circle
the
tight,
circle
baby.
tight.
No squares in that circle.
And y'all are puffing and passing, and I'm gonna go ahead and move
Nah,
on.
this is
into-
my
Everybody
own-
needs to
this-
get their own cigar.
Yeah, exactly.
Ain't no pass.
This is
Ain't
a
no
person.
puff and pass. This is a personal session.
Yeah.
I'm Puff Daddy. You get your
Yeah,
own.
I
Exactly.
appreciate. See, that's what we got to clear it up. Make sure everybody understands what's happening on this situation, man. And just like that, fellas, the art that came by way of you telling your story is exactly what I was investing in this week on my relaxation, because I got to elevate some storytelling in the activities that I have been loving to do this whole summertime. And as we transition into the winter, I'm going to look forward to new creative opportunities, new exploration, and living and thriving amongst people who are in this creative ilk, and continuing to further those stories as we come across. So that was ultimately relaxing, because the ideas that was coming in from inside the head allowed me to transition that to actual physical action, and that shit actually made me happy, man.
So head makes you happy?
It made me happy, god damn it, from top to bottom. It's like a Sunday afternoon, Corey. You can't be mad. Feeling like you're waking up great. Fellas, what are you going to be pursuing this week to make you happy in particular? Brother Jones, what's going on? What's making you happy coming up into this week as we winding the show down?
Man, I am happy to get some fresh fish. I know this seems kind of wild, but the homie Joey over at Shipwreck, it's a seafood boutique in Brooklyn. It's on Bedford Ave. You can't miss it. It's on the corner, man. Shout out to him. I stopped past and he blessed me with the fresh salmon that I chefed up for dinner. I ate on that shit for about 2 days, you know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, I'm happy that I was able to, go in this space and support a business that is truly on the up and up, as always. So I had to show love on that, and I will definitely be back this upcoming week.
There we go. Happy supporting local business. Corey, what's going on in your
I'm
side?
happy that nobody can see into my living room, because I am practicing some steps, because my mama is going to be ballroom dancing with me when I get down there for Thanksgiving. So I am working on my movements right now, and I'm very happy that nobody sees my stumbling, fumbling, bumbling ass trying to ballroom dance by myself in my room, sometimes with the cat.
That's
There
a
we-
1 and 2 and 3.
And 1 and 2 and 3.
Nice box steps and dancing with the family in the holiday season. Brother Corey, I appreciate you for all of that. And to hear my brothers going through their own respective happiness is going to be the space that I'm going to have to land this happy this week, because we got to go, folks. This is going to be the fastest hour outside here, and we're going to touch down this goddamn plane on time, because that's what we need to do. It's been another fantastic episode of Off the Strength. I'm a trainer called Tony.
I am Love Jones.
You're a trainer, Corey. Lead with love. Finish with your mouth.
Peace, and whatever that was, until next time, we'll see you eventually. We'll see you soon.